The key line in that gospel you just heard proclaimed is this: in case they may invite you back and repay you. In case they may invite you back and repay you. If you've ever wondered if we Americans live in a different universe than Jesus did, that gospel you just heard is living proof. His is an upside-down world from ours, which most of us do not agree with, and most of us do not participate in. The human ego loves esteem and honor, and every little culture has its own system of honoring and shaming. That which takes you higher up and that which takes you lower down. And actually, that way of doing things means almost nothing to God. It's entirely a construct of our culture, and we all agree to it. We decide what's trending in this culture, what is up and what is down. In case they might invite you back and repay you. What do you do for no pay? Do you do anything? I don't just mean monetary payment. I also mean social payment, reputational payment, what gives you status in the community or in your own eyes or in the eyes of your family. As soon as you seek repayment for anything that you do, you have already, at some level, prostituted it. It's not a pure action anymore. What do you do for no pay? And how much do you do to be noticed? Somebody once said, true character is what you do when nobody is looking, when nobody will know, and you don't put your name on it. It's the only game in town in America. We've got to be paid in one way or another. We've got to be paid. We've got to be noticed, named, celebrated, thanked, honored. This takes a lot of self-honesty and absolute awareness and self-reflection if we're ever going to see this in ourselves. It's so subtle sometimes. Other times it's glaring. And unfortunately, most everybody else sees it about us before we do. It takes a lot of self-honesty to know what in this action, in this doing, is more about me than this other person. More about how I will get paid back in one way or another for doing this. I'm not sure we want to be that honest with ourselves. I'm not sure many of us can even do it. But it's a remarkable thing when we get there. In 42 years of hearing confessions, I can barely tell you the very few number of times that anybody ever came in and said anything like, I did this for my own gain. I donated this for me, really, so I would be noticed, elevated, raised up. If you walk around the CSC, you will notice there are no plaques anywhere. When we talked about it about 15 years ago, when we started to redo the chapel and the commons and the office spaces to the tune of tons of money, when we started talking about it and we're raising money, it came to us to talk about, to discuss, to debate, to fight about whether or not we're going to put plaques on things that people donated or not. And we came to the conclusion that it makes it too much about the people, some people, and not others. Some people who perhaps could afford to donate for that plaque, and others who could not, who would never get their name or be able to get their name on anything. And also, it made it more about the donor instead of the community itself who used a space like this for worship. It is a hot debate, I can tell you. But people are so nice to me that after we came to this conclusion, since they couldn't put their name on it, they decided they would donate something like the Commons out there in my name. And so they began to fight really, really hard to put my name on the Commons, the Father Gary Brown Commons. But I told them, no, that's not right. Plus, nobody will ever believe that it wasn't my idea. Maybe after I'm dead. I so wish our politicians going into the next 2 years could hear this gospel story from this great teacher. And I so wish the clergy of our church as well could hear this and take it to heart. Our Holy Father, Pope Francis, has named clericalism as the root cause of the scandals that are marring our church. Clericalism. Clericalism is all about climbing. It's all about ambition. It's all about ego and power and entitlement and honor, places of honor it is. And he named that as the root wound that is leading to all this that our church is struggling with right now. You see, my friends, as long as we have to do this for ourselves, as long as you have to brag about yourself, you know deep down inside, you don't deserve it. Deep down inside, you know that. Because honor comes naturally to good and gracious and holy people. It's an inside job. You do it because it pleases God. You do it because it's the right thing to do. You do it because it's the truth. You do it for love. You don't do it for money or reputation or to put a plaque on the wall saying you did it. You do it because it's your deepest truth. You do it because it's who you really are to be generous. It's who you really are to help somebody. My friends, this is what we have to decide right now, this morning. What do you do for nothing? What do you do for nothing? An old mentor told me a long time ago. He said, Gary, that's your vocation. Your vocation versus your career is what you would be willing to do for nothing. And you just might learn that you have no vocation because there's nothing you don't do for something. A vocation versus a career is something you do just for love. Not for reputational gain, not for economic gain, not for social access, or climbing, or achieving, attaining, or performing. Those are the free people. So when you give a banquet, don't invite your relatives or your wealthy neighbors. Of course, we all do that. I do it too. But I hope we know what he's saying. He's not saying don't do that. He's asking rather, do you do anything for anybody more than your own inner circle? Do you do anything for anybody else besides those people, your own family or the wealthy who can pay you back in spades? Is it always just endlessly celebrating our little family instead of this big family that Jesus called his kingdom? The family that has no borders, I'm telling you, his is a different kind of universe. Do you see why true Christians are those scary people who don't really have their own political party, really? It's because they don't really fit in any political party, really. As Jesus said in another place, you have no place to lay your head. Your citizenship is in heaven. St. Francis was known to have said, "You are who you are in the eyes of God." You are who you are in the eyes of God, nothing more, nothing less. And that's really good news, my friends, because you know who you are in the eyes of God. A beloved, eternal son, a beloved, cherished daughter. That's who you are in the eyes of God. In that, you have all the honor you can handle. You have all the recognition you'll ever need, ever need. You'll have all the reputation you want. You'll have all the admiration you'll ever seek. So you do not need to go around bragging, wearing fancy clothes and driving the hyped-up supercar and living in just the right neighborhood. All that means nothing to God. And it should not mean all that much to you or to me, because that's not who you are. That's merely window dressing. And it's all going to die when you die. We have to come to know who we are in God from all eternity. And that does not go up. And that does not come down. No one can give it to you, and no one can take it away from you. No, this is a permanent honor system for all, with no exceptions. And that is the meaning of your soul. You already have it. All you can do is learn to live there and learn to fully enjoy it. This is a whole different universe from ours.